Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a brand new live stream. We are witnessing history in the making. We are seeing it yet again as Donald Trump has announced his 2024 presidential run. Already, he's announcing his run. He gave a speech at Mar-a-Lago. It was a decent speech. We're going to talk about what I liked about it. We're going to talk about, what may be lacking from it, which again, there's only one thing, and I think that there's an explanation for it. But either way, Donald Trump is running for president. I have said this for years now. Trump has hinted at it, that he would go for a third presidential run, and that is exactly what he is doing. And this is very true. And he is still that leader of the party. Right now, you could say is his low point, because you have the midterms, and of course he's getting a lot of blame for the midterms that he doesn't exactly deserve, and you have all these people that are going up there and they're propping up Ron DeSantis 2024 because they somehow believe that that's going to be viable. They somehow believe that Donald Trump is a net negative for the Republican Party, that he's losing them all sorts of congressional seats because he happened to endorse some people in primaries that would likely have won their primaries anyways, and it's a disaster. The fallout from the midterms, it's honestly more annoying than the midterm results themselves have been. But either way, he is back. He is ready, and he has to fight not just the Democrat establishment, but he has to fight the Republican establishment as well. And this is the thing. And Ron DeSantis, like I've said for a long time, I like Ron DeSantis. I think he is a good governor. He has shown what it's like to be a competent figure at the state level, and he honestly has set an example at the state level for how you should actually get things done, because he's done the bare minimum. Obviously, we'd like for people to do even more than DeSantis has done, but at the end of the day, taking this guy who is a good governor and then propping him up to be the next president of the United States, it doesn't always pan out. Jeb Bush was governor of Florida, didn't exactly do a bad job. He got things done. He banned affirmative action. He wasn't this raging neocon at the state level. That didn't prevent him from being a George Bush apologist at the national level. Jeb Bush has come out and is attacking Donald Trump, yet praising Ron DeSantis. What does that lead people to believe? It should lead people to believe that Ron DeSantis is that Trojan horse for the GOP of old to get back on board. There's a reason why he has all of these neocons and establishment Republicans supporting him. And he's also somebody that has a record that doesn't play out too well in the swing states. You want to talk about electability, they want to talk about it. Okay, why did so many people lose that probably should have won in 2022, at least in terms of the Rust Belt? A lot of it was because all these rural areas, you saw a major drop-off in voter turnout in Pennsylvania, in Michigan. In Wisconsin, Ron Johnson was able to improve in many counties, but it wasn't exactly enough. And then you saw Tim Michels vastly underperform, even Scott Walker in 2018. And you look at this and it's like the base didn't turn out. That's what it is. The suburbs were not really the major problem that we saw for Dr. Oz. They were not the problem that we saw for Tim Michels. Tim Michels hit the targets he necessarily needed, but then there were some rural counties in southwestern Wisconsin, the farmland counties in the driftless area, that voted for Tony Evers. And it's like, okay, well then, you look at what the Republican Party is without Trump in these areas. They need somebody that can get out there and turn out the base, is somebody who has been an average congressman turned decent governor that has also happened to oppose fracking, oppose fossil fuels, and also support TPP. Is that really going to be your answer? Is that really going to be your Trump after Trump? Is that really going to be somebody that could deliver the victory in these rural areas? And also, he has the charisma of a rock. As well. I mean, you look at him in front of these reporters. You look at him. What is he exactly doing in front of these reporters? Oh, he's reading off of a note card, and all of the establishment Republicans are acting like this guy is such a rhetorical genius. And it's like, is he really? I mean, he's just reading off of a note card. I'm not even saying he's a bad governor, but he is a career politician, and I'm not entirely sure that this guy is that electorally viable. And then you look at who's surrounding his circle. We gave Donald Trump a lot of criticism for having a lot of bad actors in his circle. Ron DeSantis' circle is already shaping up to be a total train wreck. You have somebody who wanted to impeach him as one of his current press secretaries. I mean, you have Christina Pushover, the Ukrainian shill, as like one of his top advisors. And then you look at who's supporting him. You look, he's gotten soft support from members of the Lincoln Project who are fine with him to ditch Trump. He doesn't have the full support of the Lincoln Project, obviously. And then he has the Bushes. He has a lot of these neocons in his corner. I'm just saying that it's not a good look. And Trump still has an issue. He doesn't have Kushner in his circle. That's good. I mean, Lindsey Graham is talking him up right now. I don't know if there's an ulterior motive there. That is not something that's very good. But still, what I will say is you look at this and you see you are going to have two options. And maybe you'll have some other people throw their hat in the ring. Larry Hogan is going on the offense on Twitter right now at Donald Trump. And then you have Asa Hutchinson, who is awful and was one of the worst governors in the entire country, represented or served as governor of deep red Arkansas. And this guy's out here governing like he's Phil Scott half the time, at least in the past couple years. And it's like, this is the guy that a lot of, like he's out there, he's critiquing Trump, and people actually think that he's going to be like electorally viable or something. Plot twist, he's not. It's a total disaster. Let them run. Let all these people run. It's another clown car yet again. And it's going to be downright hilarious. It will be. And Ron DeSantis will likely be the most viable contender. Some people will say Youngkin. I don't think Youngkin is going to throw his hat in the ring. Maybe he'll be a VP contender for either Trump or DeSantis. But DeSantis is that viable candidate. But still, you see some polls, they'll have DeSantis up or just barely up. The Club for Growth. And honestly, if there's any moment that would be a high point for Ron DeSantis, it really should be right now because of the PSYOP, because of the midterm PSYOP, because of the blame that's being put on Donald Trump where he doesn't entirely deserve the blame. And you look at what's going on and you see it. And besides that point, we also have to understand that Trump gave a speech that was very on message. And people will critique his speech for being low energy. And I understand that. I do. It's not the 2016 energy. It doesn't have the angry growl, whatever. But still, you also have to understand that a lot of the same people that are critiquing his tone were also critiquing his tone for being too unpresidential back in 2016 throughout the majority of his presidency. And now they're the same people that are sitting back here saying that, oh, he's low energy. So it's not necessarily about them viewing Trump's tone as low energy. It's more about them just not liking Donald Trump, not liking what his wing of the Republican Party stands for. So don't get psyoped by these people. That's all I'm saying. Donald Trump is still, in my opinion, the best option. That doesn't mean he doesn't have flaws, but I'm wearing the MAGA hat right now. I had to bring it back out because he is out there and he is campaigning and he is already ready for 2024. And in terms of, the House, we lost all these seats that should have been winnable, and they blame Trump. They would have likely all gone Republican had Donald Trump been at the top of the ticket. You talk about seats like even Dan Kildee's district, Alyssa Slotkin's district, Washington's 3rd. A lot of these districts, very pro-Trump areas. You talk about Boebert's underperformance in Colorado. Boebert performed in line with Trump, may have actually outperformed him by a little bit back in the 2020 election. So either way, Trump has this down ballot effect. He's bringing out voters to the polls every single time that have never voted before because they like the fact that he's not a politician. These voters are not going to vote in midterm elections, but these people are going to be voting in general elections. I will say that for president. Now, I understand that a lot of people are black-pilled about the 2022 results. They're disillusioned with politics. They're disillusioned with the electoral system. I'm not necessarily saying that if Donald Trump runs, which he is running, that if Donald Trump gets the nomination, that he is guaranteed to win. He is guaranteed to defeat Biden. I'm not even saying that. I don't think anything is a guarantee in politics anymore. I really don't. But at the end of the day, if you're talking about somebody that's going to really energize the voters needed to win those key states, it's probably going to be Donald Trump. And even so, if DeSantis versus Trump, let's say they have the same electability, or even DeSantis has a little bit more electability for some reason, which he doesn't, by the way. But let's say that that is the case. Who is in Ron DeSantis's corner? What would his administration look like? We always can critique Trump's administration for not resembling his 2016 campaign, as we probably should. I think you could say he's learned some lessons. He's probably going to have some more lessons to learn regardless down the stretch. But either way, it's like, you look at who's in DeSantis's corner. These are the Bush people. All of those bad people in Trump's administration would much rather prefer to work under Ron DeSantis because they know he's more controllable. Yes, even Fauci. Oh, DeSantis stood up to Fauci. He locked down the country. He locked down his state for a decent amount of time. I mean, he was one of the first governors to reopen. I give him credit for that. But this notion that, wow, DeSantis really stuck it to the establishment. I mean, more so than most on that issue, but still, not necessarily. Even Brian Kemp up in Georgia, he was one of the first people. I don't see people propping up Brian Kemp for 2024. Honestly, I see no difference at the federal level. DeSantis is somebody that's going to have to rely on out-of-state money in order to really raise his profile to run. That's what he's going to have to do because he can't exactly self-fund. He does not have universal name recognition. He has high name rec, probably 70% or so among the electorate, but a lot of people don't exactly know him that well. And he's not really being attacked by the national media nearly as much in terms of his past record. They're going to pull out all the stops on him if they really do believe that DeSantis is a threat. And if he's not a threat, then honestly, what's the point? What's the point if he's just going to go along with whatever the establishment is going to say? And that is another thing that people need to understand. So I have a lot of people that are saying, you know, Trump is the failure because of these midterms, but still, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's the wrong option for 2024. I stand by pretty much everything. They want me to cave and say I was wrong about this, wrong about that. And honestly, my predictions were a little bit off in some places. It may be an understatement, but I mean, a lot of these swing districts and swing states, you looked at the polls. If there was anybody who told you that we'd see an R+4 national environment, which we did, what percentage of these people would say Republicans barely retake the House and then like may even lose a Senate seat net? Like, what percentage of people would say that? This was a weird election, and yes, there were some mistakes made, but we still got, 95% of House seats correctly, 91% of Senate seats, approximately 87% of governorships, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue. Because there's going to have to be adjustments to the methodology. And one of the reasons why they lost is the Republican Party is incompetent. They are incompetent. Tom Emmer is incompetent, and somehow he was rewarded with a promotion to majority whip, which is a total disaster. Now, thankfully, a very decent representative, Hudson, took over his old slot. That will be an upgrade. Hudson is a hardliner. He's good on the issues, but he also knows how to win. He is an overperformer, and it's a massive net positive that he is going to be taking that spot. And it's also very possible that Mitch McConnell may not be Senate Majority Leader because you have, or Senate, I should say Senate Minority Leader, obviously, because of the fact that you do have Rick Scott running against him officially now. Rick Scott is running against him. That's an upgrade. I mean, Rick Scott wasn't very good with his strategy for the NRSC. We know that. But still, in terms of who's going to be majority leader, he could be pressured by the base more so than not. In fact, he supported Donald Trump over Ted Cruz and Kasich back in 2016, which really deviated from the norm there. But we'll see. But either way, you look at this and we see Donald Trump, he's running, and the messaging was on point, 2016 level messaging. You hear him talking about death penalty for drug dealers. That's what people want to hear. We're at a time where we have a ridiculous crisis on our hands. And you have people that are giving people drugs and they're dying from them. That's murder right there. Trump is going out there and he's already poking the bear a little bit with that because the media is going to have a heyday. The CNN's already spinning around saying, oh, well, he's going to lose. He's got all these ethics concerns that they've been throwing at him for 3 years or so. And then also on top of that, you see the fact that he's going out there. He's talking about restricting lobbying, term limits, etc. The drain the swamp messaging that was there in 2016 wasn't there in 2020. 2020, there was a lot of pandering going on. Didn't really pander too much in this speech. The pandering was gone. He's pandering to groups that weren't necessarily going to vote for him. You talk about whether that was suburban women, whether that was black voters, other groups that don't ever vote Republican. And you look at that and you see Donald Trump now and what he's doing. He's showing character development there. He's never going to admit he was wrong because, yes, he does have a big ego. It's arguably one of his biggest strengths. But at the end of the day, you talk about what he wants to do with the electoral system. Before, he was attacking mail-in voting. He was attacking early voting. And Democrats were able to capitalize on that. Ballot harvesting on the right wing, it's taken place in places like Florida. Now it takes place in places like California. You saw it a little bit in New York. It worked wonders for turnout. This was an election where you saw turnout in some places higher than others. We have to beat the Democrats at their own game. Donald Trump on Truth Social was retruthing earlier today the fact that there needs to be this massive overhaul of the electoral system from within, and Republicans have to play at the Dems' own game. And now, what do we see? We see Trump talking about the future of the elections. A lot of the electabros were just waiting for him to mention 2020 because they say, hey, well, he's all he's going to do is talk about 2020, and he's not going to be able to win because it's about looking to the future, not the past. Trump looked to the future. What did he do? He said, we have a problem. It's taking years to count the ballots, and we need to change that, and we also need to get involved and have more Republicans vote early, play at their game. That's what we have to do. We have to play their own game, and we have to beat them at their own game, or we're not going to win. Too many Republicans and conservatives in general over the past 50, 60 years have sat there, and they have folded at every single turn. And that's why we've lost our country, even though we've won electoral supermajorities and red waves in the past. And now, what exactly do we have? What exactly do we have? Look at the state of the culture right now. Look at the state of a lot of different things. The state of our country, the state of middle America. It's all gone. It's not what it used to be. We need to bring it back. That was Donald Trump's initial appeal. And Republicans have to learn how to fight even harder. And I will say that ahead of 2024, I think it would be a great thing for a lot more people to wake up. But it is true, the midterms, you could say a brutal blow. Republicans did take back the House. It's not up on NYT yet. They did call, I believe they called Garcia's seat in one of these outlets. They called Garcia's district. Valadeo will likely win. They called Kiley. That was the one. Kiley won in California. So that's 218. They're likely going to end up with 221. Democrats are going to end up with 214. Not a big enough majority. It's possible they could expand on that in 2024 if they actually get their act together. But we're looking at this, and we're looking at the rural Midwest. There was no turnout in a lot of these places. And you could say it's candidate quality. You could say it is what it is. It doesn't matter. When John Fetterman is a U.S. Senator and when Mandela Barnes becomes, 1% away from winning, when you have Katie Hobbs, who doesn't debate, just sits at Starbucks all day, becomes governor of Arizona, although we know, if you know about Arizona, that's a train wreck, but still, it's not even about candidate quality. You have to get out the base. The vote red no matter who tagline needs to become a thing. And honestly, the primaries were rough. A lot of the energy was spent on the primaries, but also you had the RNC would spend how much money for their establishment candidates, tens of millions of dollars, giving out brochures, trying to paint these Republican candidates as evil. By the time they get the nomination, they're dead on arrival. It wasn't even the whole, the base's fault or Trump's fault. Trump picked the decent candidates in a lot of these districts as well. They could have won, but the base stayed home, and you had a lot of people, in terms of the independent voters, they were being hit by a lot of these advertisements, a lot of these brochures from the RNC, who were sitting back, and what exactly were they doing? They were calling these candidates all sorts of names. They were acting like leftists, far leftists even. They were acting like Antifa. trying to bring down these America First candidates, and it did have more of a negative impact than the general. So, yes, the polls were wrong. If we trusted the polls and the predictions, then wouldn't be in this situation right now. So we're going to reevaluate a little bit, but it's evident that there is a turnout problem, because I believe that the polls were right and the predictions were right if the Republican Party was competent, if they did their job to turn out voters. Even after all of the slander and all the money spent to discredit these America First candidates, which there were many instances of that happening, many instances. Arizona, even Wisconsin to a lesser extent. I personally don't think there's that much of a difference between Michaels and Kleefisch. Michaels is more of a political outsider. Kleefisch is more tied to Walker. I think that's one of the few instances where you could say, okay, well, maybe if Trump endorsed Kleefisch, then she would have probably unified the party earlier, may have held Wisconsin or flipped Wisconsin's governorship. But at the end of the day, given the turnout that we saw, I'm not entirely sure. Not entirely sure. But Trump gets a lot of hate for the midterms, even though a lot of the candidates he endorsed were either going to win their primaries anyways, or in some cases beat people in primaries that would likely have performed in line with them or worse. David McCormick, not really the best candidate for Pennsylvania. The guy's essentially Lisa Murkowski, and he could be hit with the whole, instead of the New Jersey, it'd be Connecticut. And he has a way worse record on economics that would have hurt him in the rurals, even more so. And rurals didn't turn out for Oz. Even the biggest left arrows for the margins for Doug Mastriano were not in suburban Philly. They were in the rural areas, which is surprising because that's where his strength was in the primaries as well. Very interesting there. He didn't get any help from the RGA, but he didn't really solicit any help either. I'm not going to sit back here and defend Mastriano. He wasn't even my first choice, by the way. I think he's a good guy, but he wasn't my first choice in the primary. But I don't think Barletta would have got it done either. You look at him in 2018, I mean, that was an abysmal performance. I know he was up against Bob Casey, but look, you're only able to get it within, 15 points? I mean, still, that's on you. That's on you if you're only able to get it within 15. So we're going to look at the Super Chats. We'll talk a little bit more about the midterms. I think getting into the Super Chats is a good starting point for us to talk about the midterms. Make sure you like the stream. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as well. If you have not subscribed, subscribe to use the live chat, which is a very key feature of the live stream. So here we go. Red Texan Politics says, good speech overall, but I wish there was more energy. I kind of got tired while watching it. And I think that the energy level was probably about, I saw a tweet from Real American Politics that put it very well. The energy level was about a 6 out of 10, but the messaging was a 10 out of 10. Give it an 8 out of 10 overall. That's pretty much what it is. But still, we're looking at the speech. He knows that he's backed into a corner. He knows he has a lot of people going against him in the party, a lot of people that claim to support him, a lot of people that worked on his 2020 campaign. If this is what it's going to take for Donald Trump to get his edge back, I'm all for it. I am. I'm all for it. If getting this edge back means going up against people like DeSantis, Larry Hogan, Hutchinson, all these people, if that's what it takes, I'm completely fine. The primary might very well be worth it, but he's got to bring it. He's got to bring it, and I think he will. And the energy, we'll wait for the first rally. Definitely, it was not where it was in 2016 in terms of the announcement speech, but still very subdued. Way more energy than Biden, by the way. More energy than Ron DeSantis even. Or about, I guess you would say about the same because it's a formal event, but still, what can I say? Gerald Armstrong says, rather have a Trump Lake ticket, but if he picks DeSantis, the left will call the ticket Ronald McDonald. Well, technically, Donald McRonald would technically be the way that they should say it, but I wouldn't expect them to try to get the technicality of it down. I mean, Trump Lake, I think that Lake should have some role in the Trump campaign. I think that Lake, her political future, that's the saddest loss of them all because she's very talented, very rhetorically talented, very skilled at dealing with the media. And we know what happened there. We know. We're not going to say it, but we know. And it's very sad. The Republican Party did nothing to help her. She essentially one individual machine there. And honestly, the end result was very sad. But you look at those last ballot dumps there. They came in for her big in the primaries. They came in for Trump big in 2020. But for her, about the same, 50-50. Yeah, okay, whatever. But still, I don't know if you're going to take somebody and make them your VP if they've never served in office before. I would still obviously love to vote for that ticket. It wouldn't be the worst option. But Trump's VP, that's a whole nother question. And I don't know what the answer to that is. It depends. Does he want to go the more, I wouldn't say compromise route, but I'd say complementary route, or does he want to go double down in the base? Because you don't have a lot of options doubling down in the base. Kari Lake, assuming she had elected office, would have been a decent option for VP, although I would have rather had her stay as governor in Arizona. So I don't know what Trump's options are really going to be for VP, but we'll have to see. The VP doesn't matter nearly as much as people want it to. Or will make it out to be. Obviously, Kamala Harris, I mean, did she hurt Biden in 2020? I think she did, but not by much. Very negligible difference. Jeremy G says Emperor Palpatine 2024 for president. Jessica James says Trump or DeSantis, let's be grateful we have such high-quality candidates compared to the Dems. Quality over quantity. Look, here's the deal. DeSantis in and of himself is not a bad governor. I will defend him on that front. He's done a better job than most. But still, it's important to understand, yes, he is good at what he does. But if you talk about the national level, he's got a lot of people that are jumping on board early that are going to try to cling to him and use him to sabotage Trump. And him being a career politician, falling in line with these people, you talk about what his administration is going to look like, you're looking at Bush 2.0 right there, and it's not necessarily his fault. So that's what I'm saying with Ron DeSantis, and I'm warning people right away, and that will inevitably happen if he does become the nominee, which I don't believe he will. He may not even run, but a lot of people want him to run. And if you're DeSantis and you're seeing polls that have you ahead, you're going to run. You want to run. You want power. He's always sought higher office his entire career, which, again, is nothing. There's nothing wrong with that in and of itself. But still, you're looking at the fact that he started off. Did he start off in the state house? I'm not entirely sure, but he ran for Congress, served in the military, Harvard Law, ran for Senate in 2016 briefly when Rubio said he wasn't going to run. And then in 2018, I should say, he ran for governor. 2022 re-election, obviously, there's nothing wrong with that. And then 2024, is he going to seek the presidency because the GOP establishment is drafting him? They're begging him to run. They're on their hands and knees wanting him to. And it's like, if this guy's so anti-establishment, even if he is a good governor, is he really the answer? And then we talk about electoral viability. It's not entirely there. It's not. Might be there in Florida, obviously. Maybe there even in a state like Texas. I think he would do better than Trump in Georgia. But in terms of nationwide, is he that viable in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania? I don't know. Trump may not even win these states, especially now because all three of them have Democrat governorships and Democrats gained in the state legislatures. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is a shoo-in for 2024. I'm not making predictions just yet. Obviously, we're going to have to look and see the best way moving forward to predict elections, because it's not the polls or any fundamentals, especially when you have this new voting system that Republicans don't know how to game for themselves. So that's pretty much it. Stephen Knizik says that DeSantis running against Trump in 24 will be like Anakin trying to take the high ground. Rather the coward be Pence, be the 2024 sacrificial lamb. Yeah, and the thing is, if DeSantis loses, he's done. If he loses to Donald Trump, because how is he going to run against Trump? Is he going to run to his right? How could he do that? I mean, I'm sure he'll try, but if he runs to his left, he's going to sound like a member of the Lincoln Project or Jeb Bush or Meghan McCain or one of these people. He just can't do it. And if he goes down that route, it's like, okay, you were like the MAGA governor. Like a year or two ago, you were that guy. You were that MAGA governor. You could have just waited your turn, and he's going to get decimated if that is the case, more so than not. And even if he tries to hit Trump from the right, what is Trump going to say? You say I locked down the country, you locked down your state, or something like that, and it's over. It's over. Because all of the arguments against Trump that are other than like, oh, he's too old, are not legitimate arguments. And even the, oh, he's too old thing isn't that legitimate when he still brings energy higher than a lot of these career politicians that are younger, even though he's older and he's not what he used to be rhetorically. I'm not saying he was. I'm not a Trump cultist like they say, but, if being a Trump cultist means, ending mass immigration, it means, restoring the American dream, ending the foreign wars, then I'll just sip the Kool-Aid right now, but that's not what it means. In fact, a few people were holding Trump accountable during his presidency, except for me. And the bottom line was a lot of the D. Simpson electabros were defending Trump at the time because Trump was caving in to the establishment. So take that, with a grain of salt when these people are trying to hit Trump from the right. It's all for political power. These people don't have the best interests of the country in mind, or we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in. We wouldn't be in the situation that our country's in right now if it wasn't for the poor leadership on the right. I always say this country's only as strong as its weakest conservative, and we're seeing that in spades right now. So yeah. DeBleo says, where does Lake go from here? I don't want to see her become a perennial candidate like Beta and Abrams. Also, Abe is only behind 771 votes and may win. Yeah, I know. Abe is in a good position. I don't want to say he'll win because, don't want to jinx anything there. But it's possible he pulls it off. And where does Lake go from here? I'm not entirely sure. She could do a lot of things. Maybe if Biggs goes for Senate, runs for Congress. Could she go for Senate in 2024? It's possible. That's a risk, though. She's not guaranteed victory. Far from it, especially if there are no reforms made to Maricopa County in terms of their electoral system. Hopefully Abe Hamadeh gets in there, because if he's the attorney general, he will use any power that he has to actually go after the system. And that's a good thing. It's a very good thing. 100%. So Nick H is based off of how the GOP has done in Senate races in the Rust Belt when Trump isn't on the ballot. I have my doubts that DeSantis would get 270. Thank you. See, some people get it, some people don't. And this is true. Ron Johnson did much better in 2016, a much bluer national environment than 2020, by the way, when Donald Trump was at the top of the ticket. So, he actually outperformed the polls by a lot against a hero in the state by many regards, an electoral juggernaut in Feingold. He's not an electoral juggernaut anymore. Obviously, he's lost 2 elections in a row, but he used to be. So, I don't know. It is a big mess, but is what it is. But DeSantis might not get 270. He might not be able to. And the electoral map is, I think, something that a lot of people are disillusioned with right now. They don't want to talk about it. I get it. I understand it. I can't blame you. I feel the same way to a certain extent. But if we're talking about getting there, I trust Trump more where he's already won in 2016 than I trust DeSantis where he hasn't won, and where politicians of his ilk have vastly underperformed Donald Trump in these places. I'm not saying Trump gives you a victory at this point. I'm not saying he does, but he's got a shot. I mean, it's possible DeSantis wins the popular vote, but loses the Electoral College. And people will say that that's asinine, that's insane. But that's literally what happened during these midterms. So they'll blame candidate quality, whatever. But, I mean, you look at it, a lot of establishmentarian Republicans underperformed in deep red states and, deep blue states. You saw people like Darren Bailey overperform and carry the water in Illinois, despite him being very, very right-wing. So, I don't know. Let's see. John Waffle H2P says, people have lost their minds. They aren't looking at the data on why a lot of these candidates, some of these MAGA Republicans are acting like Democrats on Twitter. Well, exactly. And I don't know if you mean MAGA Republicans as like actual Republicans or whatever, or if you're talking, I don't know exactly what you mean by that. But the bottom line is a lot of people don't know what happened during the midterms. They just don't know. They don't get it. And you look at the results here. And in a lot of cases, you can't even entirely blame stuff we can't mention. Obviously, Pennsylvania wasn't even close. Michigan wasn't even close. But still, what I will say is that they don't really fully get what happened. They don't understand what's going on in terms of the electoral system. They say, oh, well, Trump endorsed this guy. He lost. Oh, it's Trump's fault. Get him out of the way. If the Republicans won a 270-seat landslide, they will say, it's because Trump's not on the ballot. We need to get rid of Donald Trump. They did the same thing when Youngkin won in Virginia. They're doing the same thing to explain the victories in New York and California and Florida. And honestly, I'm just sick of it. I'm sick of it. They'll blame the guy for everything. It's like they'll say, oh, this guy has, he's a Trump cultist, but they're just deranged people. Like, they will take the anti-Trump line for literally every single thing. Virginia, we won it. Before, they said, oh, Trump's getting involved. He's endorsing Youngkin. It's over. Yeah, I don't think so. Now Youngkin, not Youngkin himself, but Winsome Sears is attacking Donald Trump out of nowhere. And then you look at it and Trump is attacking back. And then it's like, oh, this is the worst thing in the world. How dare he attack his political opponents? And it's like, I prefer that we don't attack each other. I prefer that people just get on board. But at the end of the day, it's a mess. So Dustin Carner says Trump needs to take a backseat. It's time for DeSantis, Kemp, Youngkin, and Zeldin. If Trump is the leader, he needs to reap the bad as well as the good. Well, the thing is exactly like what I just said. You talk about somebody like DeSantis or Kemp, and you're talking about these people going to the federal level. It's not exactly going to pan out the way you expect if you truly believe in America First principles, truly believe in authentic conservatism. If you're fine with just, I don't know, sending your money away to Ukraine and fighting in foreign wars, and I guess you would say lowering your taxes by 1%, then yeah, I mean, you could say that these people are your guys. And I'm not saying they're bad governors. I'm not saying they're bad at the state level. Zeldin obviously lost, but that's kind of a moral victory. Very few moral victories in politics, but he gave up his seat to save the House. We owe him for that one. I mean, he could have a role in something, but still, this notion that, oh, we're gonna be able to save this country with these people. I mean, we're probably not even going to be able to save it with Trump. I mean, these people are who the establishment is rallying behind. So it depends on what your take is. Like I said, there's 4 ways to view the midterms. You were pro-Trump before, you're pro-Trump now. You were pro-DeSantis before, you're pro-Trump now. You were pro-Trump before, you look at the midterms and you see a mess and an underperformance, you blame Trump. And now you're for DeSantis. Or you were pro DeSantis, and then you look at the midterms, you look at the turnout in a lot of these places, and you say, wow, the Republican Party is less electorally viable when Trump's out of the picture. Maybe we need him back. So there's only 4 ways to view it. Lions 1956 says, is Herschel Walker looking good chances to win? I don't have high hopes for it. I'm not trying to doom, I just don't have high hopes for it. I mean, you could make an argument that, oh, Democrats don't have the majority on the line. They're not going to turn out. And then you could also say, hey, Republicans don't have the majority on the line. They're not going to turn out. The bottom line is I want the Republican Party to do everything they can do to reach a lot of these voters in these rural areas, get record high early turnout, beat them at their own game. I mean, this isn't working out for us, we have to vote on Election Day. Should everybody vote on Election Day? Yes, but that's not how it happens. Trust me. I understand that it's a little difficult to process this, but we lose because we don't have a good operation. They beat us at our own game, and we're getting rolled over even in a year where we won the popular vote by around 4, it might dip below 4, but still got just eviscerated in the swing states where we just did not actually weaponize the system in our favor the way our opposition does. So that's what I'll say. And also, we did very poorly in a lot of deep red states, too. Oklahoma was one of them. And it wasn't just Kevin Stitt. He overperformed. But, I mean, I can go to the Senate race here. I think it was Mark Wayne Mullen. He did vastly poor for Oklahoma. And I don't believe Lankford did. But let's see. Yeah, he only won by, what, like 27? Didn't Trump win it by like 35? Or something like that? Yeah, you talk about record turnout there. Andy Kong says Rufus is right about Rufus is right about everything. Not really. I mean, Rufus had more bullish predictions than I did, even for people like Lake in the general election. So anybody that's going to say, oh, these people were right the whole time, it's like, no, they eventually agreed. That means you should blame the Republicans that didn't do their job if they thought that these people had a chance down the stretch, as the poll said they did. But if people don't turn out, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. And obviously, yes, Arizona and Nevada, the electoral system's from hell. We know that. I'm not trying to take that away from the picture either. Nick H says people need to realize DeSantis isn't getting Romney margins in the suburbs. No, he'll probably not even get Trump 2016 margins in the suburbs. And this is true. And even if he does, he's probably not going to get the rural turnout needed. I mean, Dr. Oz, he was supposed to do a little bit worse in the rurals and then kill it in the suburbs. Chester County went right by 0.5%. That was one of the only counties in the state that moved right for Dr. Oz compared to 2020. And this is the guy always going to, pander to suburban women, say, no, leave abortion to the states. What did he say? Oh, gay marriage is one of the best things ever, something on the campaign trail. Not really, but he did say that. And I mean, if Oz won, I think he would have fallen in line. I knew people that worked closely with him. He was not going to be a total rhino. He was not going to go rogue. He would fall in line. Obviously, sometimes falling in line isn't good enough when the GOP line sucks, and obviously we'll have to fight that battle. But if we controlled the line, then it'd be different. I mean, Vance had big backing. He won in Ohio by a decent margin against somebody who was very well funded, had a great operation. And Vance didn't even campaign that much. He still won by like 7. And, he was able to get that funding, mainly thanks to Teal. Probably should have spent more money in Arizona, but even so, that was a big mess. Big mess. What was it? Kelly +5. The polls had Masters leading the aggregate. And these polls usually have underestimated Republicans. So pollsters have a lot of answering to do. But every single metric, I'm telling you, it's the turnout operation that's the only one. It does not exist on the right wing. Yes, Donald Trump was able to break the mold because he has a lot of loyal supporters. He's a larger-than-life celebrity, political figure, as many people will put it. And he was able to break the mold. And he had everything against him in 2020, came 43,000 votes short in 3 states. So take your pick. That's what I'll say. He's running again. Nick H says, we've been told twice that Trump would get blown out and it never happened. Trump is still viable. Exactly. And like I said, I don't have high hopes for electoral politics in terms of 2024. We need to keep fighting, though, because that's what we can do. We will keep fighting. Trump gets it. Trump wants to establish the electoral system and apparatus. We saw those Truth Social posts. It's in his head. People in his circle are talking to him about it, the good people in his circle, and that is a very good thing because that means that, hey, we'll actually get our act together in 2024 if that actually happens. Would DeSantis's people say that or do that? I mean, they do it in Florida. I don't know if the people at the national level are ready to fight this game because they're stupid. Republicans are stupid. Democrats are stupid. They're more evil than they're stupid. Republicans are evil, at least in terms of the establishment, but they're more stupid than evil. It's like the yin and yang of being evil and stupid. Of course, both are both, but one side is more one than the other. And we know this. I mean, Marino 1041 says Trump 2024. Yes, he's running. I said he would, and he did. Kay Ben says, great news. Ivanka Trump just announced she's not getting involved in politics this time. Thank you. Yeah, exactly. That's a big benefit. And the fact that Trump's even liberal family members are not going to be in his circle, what does that tell you? It tells you there's going to be less, this criminal justice reform that failed and, almost cost Democrats New York. There's not going to be any of that. And you talk about the fact that he's going on offense about foreign policy, talking about that, immigration, talking about that. It's important to note that this is not Trump 2020 messaging. This is more in line with Trump 2016. You could say it's Trump 2020 energy, but you think that the middle ground of those two would be good enough to defeat Biden, assuming that you get your turnout game in order, assuming you can gain the electoral system in your favor, which is not a sure thing. But I'm just saying you think that would be enough to get him over the hump. You really do. You talk about Wisconsin, you look at the electoral map, you just add Wisconsin, Nevada, Pennsylvania. It's gone. It's over. Those are the 3 you need. You could lose Arizona and Georgia and still win at that point. It's insanity. I mean, I don't know. It's insane. But yeah. Cregular said 50. Thanks for the 50. Says, honestly, he looks different. He sounds different. He's driven with every fiber of his being. The speech he gave, all I could see in his eyes was pure motivation and a sole focus for saving our nation. Yeah, I mean, Trump is somebody that I believe genuinely cares. I do. He has a big ego, but I do believe he cares. He could have the best press in the world. If he just, even if you want to say he conceded to Biden on day one and, did an apology tour or whatever. I mean, maybe they wouldn't give him the best press, but they give him better press, that he'd stay out of the political light and the GOP would go back to, I don't know, DeSantis, somebody else 2024. And that would be a done deal. But no, he decides to stay in and fight. And that speaks volumes about the kind of guy that he is. So we'll see. It all comes down to turnout. It really does. And Republicans need to get their act together with the electoral system. They really were. So don't be mad. Don't even be mad at the polls. You can be mad at the polls. I get it. You can be mad at me. You can be mad at whoever, even though, like I said, all the metrics favored one direction. But what I will say is the real people that are at fault here are the GOP. They're fully responsible. You can look at the map, even in places like Pennsylvania. There was the big turnout drop-off in the rural areas. It was in the rurals. It wasn't even in the suburbs in Pennsylvania, Mastriano did perform very poorly, but he even performed more poorly in rurals. He was losing some counties that haven't been lost since like McCain in the rural areas. There's no turnout operation. There's not. And, a lot of people were saying we're going to outperform the polls. That was our mistake for trusting the GOP to not drop the ball. But still, Trump is not the GOP. Trump is a different figure. If Trump is on the ticket, it changes the ball game. The problem is, let's say he wins, what happens after that? What happens? He's not going to be able to be president forever. He's not. He's not going to be on the ticket every time. And energy's not going to be super high every time. Then you're going to have to look to 2028 and beyond, 2026 even, and say, you guys got to get your act together. You do. It's Cool Guy Rye says, do you think Lake and Blake have political future? Maybe. Blake is young. Lake is not that old either. But who knows? The fact that they've both lost, even if you want to say, yeah, we know, redacted, etc. But still, it's optically, in terms of should these people run again, in the eyes of a lot of these boomers, these primary voters, doesn't look too good. Congress, Blake should run for Gosar's seat because Gosar is getting old. He's got medical problems, and he needs a very good replacement. And if Blake Masters runs for Congress there, be a great pick for him. He did very well there in the primary. He would easily win the primary. It's basically a sure thing for the general. Kari Lake, I think Trump's press secretary, if he does run and win, or for the campaign trail, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Multi-Drider says, I'm looking at exit polling, and what I see as the main factor was last-minute turnout from 18 to 29-year-olds voting Democrat. Yeah, where's the turnout from the conservative 18 to 29-year-olds? We exist, folks. We do. And a lot of people were just apathetic, didn't turn out. Primaries had more energy for the right, even after Dobbs, than the general election did. Obviously, turnout was higher overall for the general, but still. It was insane. What I will say is that there is a problem with young voters, but it's not even just young voters. Millennials moved to the right vastly, and that helped Republicans in terms of the House vote. You did see a rightward shift from millennials, and people do get older. They get more right-wing typically. I know that, but still, there's just no energy there. You want to energize young voters. Didn't Donald Trump win the youth vote in Wisconsin or something like that? Or got pretty close. 18 to 29-year-olds, seriously. And you look at the conservative organizations for young people, and what do they offer? What do they offer young people? These, you look at these signs, brochures, the most generic thing ever, just 1980, 1994 talking points. It's not going to win 2022. It's not going to win 2022 at all. So, yeah. Bala JJ45 says, so Trump said his endorsement was 200 to 220. I'm estimating, is that true? Because it proves MAGA is alive and well outside of the Oz endorsement. Well, it's true, but he endorsed every Republican pretty much. And some Republicans that weren't supposed to win, or that were supposed to win, lost. Those are the 20. And this is technically true. If you want to be technical about it, but still, in a lot of these swing states, it didn't matter. Mumtaz Shamsi says, why are you pretending the election was certain word? This is beyond a joke. It was never clear. From now, it's simply whoever they pick. Well, listen, I'm not pretending anything. I'm looking at what I look at Arizona and Nevada. I don't disagree that it's strange. I don't disagree there. The bottom line is we can beat the system. We beat it in many places in 2022. We beat it in 2020 in many places. We beat it in 2021. The Republican turnout operation is garbage, and I'm not going to excuse that either. The RNC bears a lot of blame. There's a lot of places in rural Ohio, rural Pennsylvania. Election boards are controlled by Republicans, where you didn't really see any positive developments there. You saw massive shifts to the left. So what I will say is some states need massive overhauls. Arizona, Nevada, obviously. California's another one, but we have no power there. Even so, we're doing pretty well there. But in a lot of these places, the GOP has dropped the ball with messaging, with turnout, with mechanics, everything. It's embarrassing. And they will blame Donald Trump regardless. And like I said, I don't know if Trump's going to win in 2024. I don't know if he will. I'm not going to sit here and try to sell people something that might not happen. You know, you never know what can happen. That's the lesson to be learned from 2022. What I will say is that Donald Trump will give you a shot to win. He is the best candidate. He speaks to the base. He will turn out the base, and that is very true. And there's so many stupid people on Twitter, naive people as well. I don't think everybody's acting in bad faith, but you have naive people and you have stupid people. Some are a little bit of both, but we'll come out here and say, oh, well, this is all Trump's fault. We have to just completely purge him from the party, keep him away from Georgia for the runoff. So we need to send Zeldin and Young. It's like, okay, they can come down. I'm not saying that, but Donald Trump endorsing Herschel Walker is not going to end the runoff for the Republican. He already endorsed Herschel. Like, he already endorsed Herschel Walker. He's probably, I don't know if he's going to rally for him. But still, him saying he supports him is important. For him to say, if he says, I don't support him, stay home, then the rural areas won't show up and boom, it's over. Trust me. He endorsed the candidates and rallied for them in 2021, and the base didn't show up. I mean, I don't know if Herschel's going to win that runoff. I don't have high hopes for it. I encourage, if you live in Georgia, to get involved. Get as many people voting as early as possible as well. Get them voting early. Get them to vote often. Get them to vote red no matter who. That's what they do. That's what we need to do. Very few exceptions. Very few exceptions. I will say that. Okay. Let's see. Not going to read that one. Sam Madsen says, also in Minnesota, most of the rural swung left as well, even the suburbs. Yeah, and you nominated one of the weakest Republicans ever, pro-BLM. You remember that video of that one guy that was in the suburbs or something? He was a BLM activist. He was going crazy. It looked like he was on drugs of some sort. Scott Jensen, met with that guy back in 2020. He's one of the worst people you could put up. Not even close to being pro-Trump. He fell dramatically. Colorado, Joe O'Dea. He lost by more than Trump lost Colorado by in 2020. And he caved. He was an open never-Trumper. He said that he wanted to codify Roe v. Wade. He supported all these people that were caving in these, were even remotely swing areas, didn't exactly pan out for him. It didn't pan out for him. Your turnout operation sucks. You don't exactly fund certain candidates. You let them get defined by these lunatics. You define them in many cases, like we saw in Arizona, like we saw in some of these other races. You pull money out of certain districts in Ohio because of Democrat smear jobs that are conducted on people. And obviously, I'm not going to let Majewski, fully off the hook, because he did really run a very online campaign. But the fact that he lost by 14, it's embarrassing. If Trump was on the ticket, he would have won. He would have. You could write that down. Boebert outperformed him. MTG outperformed him. Gosar outperformed him in 2020. Why wouldn't Majewski outperform him if it's a Trump plus 3 district moving right? I don't know. LDS German Shepherd Boy says, how can we best win in Arizona if the Dems keep redacting with you know what. Well, you just have to, I guess you would have to outdo the system, and you'd have to actually get people voting early and get people voting often and actually get everything in order. And there were some candidates that were able to get by. Abe Hamadeh, he's anti-establishment. He may very well win at the end of the day. I'm not going to make a prediction on that. But that doesn't excuse what took place. It doesn't excuse it by any stretch of the term. But what I will say is that you just have to just get the highest turnout you possibly can. And Democrats have weaponized the system, so much so to the fact that a vegetable is the senator from Pennsylvania. He said the Eagles are so much better than the Eagles. That was his rallying cry on the campaign trail. That was the takeaway from it, was that was literally it. That's one of the most memorable things he ever said, besides the debate, was the Eagles are so much better than the Eagles. Yeah, well, the Eagles lost last night, but that's beside the point. Let's see. DJ Aftershock says, worst thing about this midterm underperformance is a large amount of Libby-T are gloating, obnoxiously said to see Dems have a trifecta in Michigan. I mean, they could gloat. I mean, that's their business. The Republican Party just sucks. And obviously, AZ Nevada, their systems suck. The Republican Party still needs work nationwide, obviously, but still. They're going to be gloating. They've done this every cycle. They've gloated every cycle. They will gloat. They're obnoxious. I get it. I'm more upset with the establishment Republicans that are gloating. You have some guy, he's not really the best looking guy, to put it in perspective. I'm not trying to take shots here, but it was like, I don't know why he posted this picture of himself posing with Karen Robson, which was the neocon who ran for governor of Arizona in the primary and scammed a lot of old people. And he's like, oh, well, look, ha, this is what victory looks like. This is what vindication looks like. And it's like, really? That's what you're doing? He just waited. He probably waited for his entire life for the past few months to post that. Probably. The past few months, he was just dying to post that. Probably didn't even help out at all during the general election. Sad. That's how these people operate. I don't know why you can chill for these people at all, but I don't know what goes through these people's heads. They're not serious people. Based Alaskan says Biden, Fetterman 24, it's a no-brainer. Yeah. Well, I mean, I've seen that. It's kind of a boomer joke, but I mean, it's true. They're brain dead. For lack of a better term, they are brain dead. And that's who represents the Democrat Party. It's true. You have Biden, who is a puppet. He's a figurehead. He's controlled. You have Fetterman, or Fetterwoman, Fetter whatever, I don't know what you want to call him, the vegetable, Fetty Wap. He's out there, and it's just like the guy can't even coherently, speak, can't even release a coherent sentence. And then you have Katie Hobbs, who doesn't campaign, is at Starbucks all day, is very unlikable, manages to be governor, very unqualified too. Calls her opponents Nazis. And she oversaw her own vote count, by the way. So take what you will from that. And people will say, well, Kemp did it too. No, Kemp stepped down before the process was really remotely underway. So it's not the same thing. But still, Hobbs is incompetent. I mean, that's enough reason alone for her not to win. But no, this is the Democrat Party right now. That's all they are. I mean, this is symbolic of it. Doomsday Machine says Lake would make a fantastic press sec in the Trump admin. Agreed. Christopher Laurie says Ducey's a disgrace. He's the reason Arizona's in jeopardy for future elections. Yeah, he can go back to Cold Stone. He can go back home. He'll be doing just fine himself. But Arizona, third world state now, man. Third world state. Lovely Six says, can we even win anymore? The election system in important states are made against us. Michigan even vetoed against voter ID. I'm not confident. Well, Michigan Republican Party is dead. They don't exist. And maybe I'm going to be the one that has to go back and revive it. I don't know. We'll deal with that when we get there. But, I mean, it is a mess. Michigan, it's really a head-scratcher, just like Minnesota. Now, Michigan got it right in 2016, but since then, it's been awful. Tudor Dixon did worse than Bill Schuette. I mean, You could say it was the abortion comments or whatever, but Darren Bailey had, I wouldn't say awful comments because I agree with them, but he said things that you would anticipate would actually turn off swing voters in Illinois, and he did much better than Trump in even a place like Lake County. So, it's a very indescribable midterm election, but Dixon losing by 11 points. I mean, the Michigan GOP is awful, and it's not even Detroit. Turnout in Detroit was not high. Oakland County, it was high. But Detroit turnout wasn't that high. So you're going to have to look at the rest of the state here and analyze this. You lose by 11, that's on you. That's on you, that's on your party, and that's an issue. So Whitmer, I know incumbents won big. Whitmer won, Evers won. I mean, you look at all these races. The only incumbent to really go down was Sisolak in Nevada, which again, Republicans are making gains there. They're building up their apparatus. It's probably going to take time. And Laxalt still fell short. 3 days late, of course, right? So is what it is. Eric CB912 says candidates were a problem in Pennsylvania, Georgia if Walker loses, and possibly Wisconsin, Nevada, and Arizona were the fault of McConnell and honking. I agree with that statement 100%. And it's funny that the weakest candidate of all that were running in the Big Four for Senate, objectively Herschel Walker, like the guy. He needs to win. But the guy, he's Mr. CTR over here. I mean, the guy is not the most intelligent when it comes to policy and substance. He, like I said, he called critical race theory CTR. He's basically the closest thing the Republicans had to Fetterman, and he is the only one still surviving. So take what you will from that. But yeah, I agree. And somebody like Calvin King probably would have done a lot better. I agree. I've agreed since day one about that because of the scandals, which I don't think impacted him a whole lot. I think it was just, a wide array of things that really did. I think that that was where the Dems were going with their attack lines. Republicans went with attacking Abrams more so than not, and Kemp won big, among other things, but still. Lucas Sapan says Rand Paul VP 24, President 28. If he's VP for Trump, I don't know. Him as president, he is weak on some issues because he is a libertarian, diehard libertarian. He is good at navigating the swamp. He's been the only no vote on a lot of confirmation attempts for a lot of bad people. I'll give him that. But in terms of him on crime or immigration, he's a little bit weak there and kind of out of touch with the general public. In general, a lot of these voters that you need to win, assuming you are going to win. So Joshua Matthew M. Samarita says, I can't believe the reason why the GOP would retake the House is because of GOP congressional districts in blue states. Yeah, you can't even blame Trump or abortion if it's New York. Zeldin voted to object to 2020, got within 6 points, and then you just do very well in a lot of these blue states. So what can I say? Tristan says, do you think Michigan is gone for us, especially with losing the legislature? It's a low blow. It is a very low blow out of the state of Michigan. And, you at least had the check on some of Whitmer's powers. Thankfully, you look at Arizona. Hobbs is going to have the check of the state legislatures and maybe some of the other statewide officials. They haven't called them yet, so I'm not going to sit back here and declare victory because it's not happening yet, but it could happen. But in terms of other things that will be taking place, it's yeah, you're going to be screwed. You don't have a statewide office there. You don't. Top of the ticket matters for statewide offices, by the way, for the most part. Dixon, I can't be that mad at Dixon because who else would have ran that would have won if she got decked the way she did? James Craig, he was lazy. He could have maybe done better in the suburbs, I agree, but against Whitmer, no, should have seen it coming the way it did. And a lot of these congressional districts fell flat because of it. Because if Dixon wins, she's going to take, she would have taken John Gibbs with her. People are trying to dunk on me about that. He didn't do that badly. You look at some of these other districts here, look at them on the map. The Dan Kildee district, he won by, 11? When you look at it and you take out the rounding, you look at the Gibbs district, he only lost by 12. Slotkin won by 6 in a Trump district. So it's not even So much so the ideology of these people. You're getting a massive upgrade in New York, and a Trump-endorsed candidate in the 22nd district over Katko, an impeachment Republican. So he would have lost the primary had he stayed in. They would have whined and bitched and moaned about that, and then he would have won. Oh, well, that's Zeldin's doing. And I agree it is Zeldin's doing, but of course they would just ignore that. Top of the ticket matters. Yes, it does. But at the end of the day, I don't know who at the top of the ticket would have helped out more so than Dixon that was left. Because Ryan Kelly basically would have been the Mastriano of Michigan. And then you look at Rinke, he was meh. And then who else would have even held a candle? And Trump only endorsed Dixon because she was pulling ahead in the primary. Don't let them retcon. Because the criticism I had of Trump was that he was endorsing only candidates he thought had a chance to win. And I could see why. Because yes, obviously viability does matter. But now they're mad at him for doing that. And now they're blaming the base for it. Whatever. I can't deal with these people because they're just so wrong and dishonest. Be honest about it. Have a conversation. Let's have a debate about it. Let's have a Twitter space about it. We could talk about it. We could talk about it. Chris Williams says, I voted for Trump in 2020 and he is on, and will if he's on the Republican ticket, but the polling numbers for him with independents are awful. How does he bring them back? I don't trust polling numbers. And I'm going to say this and people are going to be like, well, wait a minute. But here's the bottom line. The polls were off in 2022 and 2020, except they were off in the other direction this time, which leads me to believe that this is a game where it's won in the trenches. That's where it's won. The Republicans don't fight in the trenches. They don't. And I feel as if you look at the people in terms of, let's say the polls are right, and let's say that he's underwater with, which he is. I believe he's underwater with independents. Biden's underwater with independents too. The voters who hate both, who went for Biden last time, are probably going to come home more so than not to Trump, comparatively speaking, because they've dealt with 4 years of Joe Biden. So I'll say that. Now, that's how the pendulum swings. Would it be enough in some of these places? I don't know. Would Republicans actually turn out their voter base? I don't know. These are things we have to deal with, so we're going to put the predictions on hold a little bit, except obviously we're going to talk about 2023 when the time comes, because you have 3 governorships up for grabs. Republicans are probably going to flip Louisiana's. Kentucky's a question mark. But John Bel Edwards out of the picture in Louisiana, I don't know who their magical hero that's going to come save their party is in the state that voted for Donald Trump by, 22 points? So, yeah. Doomsday Machine says also Trump may have protected DeSantis by attacking him. The media and establishment were starting to go after DeSantis, but Trump attacking him drew their attention. Now his rep wasn't tarnished thanks to Trump. I mean, am I going to sit here and say that Trump is like doing the 60 chess? Listen, I don't know. The bottom line remains the same. He has been being attacked by the establishment, by people in these circles of these people propping up these people. Fox News is not on his side the way they were during his presidency. And I called this. I said, Fox is establishment media. Besides, Tucker sometimes. I like Tucker. But I feel vindicated. Look at how, Hannity is going out there. Just, it's insanity what these people have been doing. They're warmongers. They're the media. The media has been the biggest instigator regarding war. The biggest instigator regarding misinformation and conspiracy theories in history. The same things they will rail against, but it's actual conspiracies. Weapons of mass destruction didn't exist. Hands up, don't shoot, never happened. But if you question the results of a political process that took way longer than it needed to be, oh no, you're evil. You need to be canceled. You need to be removed from social media. Oh, media matters. Yeah, they wrote a hit piece about Elon giving verified checks to people. And they listed all the people he gave verified checks. And guess who made the list? I made the list. Oh, that was hilarious. And apparently I'm an evil far-right person because I said that, people should be able to fly on an airplane regardless of their personal beliefs. I guess I'm just an evil person for saying that. I don't know. That's where the Overton window has moved. And of course they lied about certain aspects of of me during the hit piece, as they do, because that's what they do. But it's funny. I wear it as a badge of honor, but they're very, very dishonest people. That's what the media does. They lie. They lie about me now. They lie about Trump. They lie about a lot of people. And they will continue to do so because they exist as a power apparatus for the regime. We know how these things work. The Democratic Party's a part of it. The Republican establishment's a part of it. Don't be fooled. The Uniparty exists for a reason. It does. And these Republicans that are weak, they're serving the opposition. Now, they might hold the line a little bit more. I'm not saying vote Dem or don't vote. You need to vote, obviously. We have to adopt that mentality, vote red no matter who, as the left does. But still, you're going to have to occupy these power structures and keep pushing the envelope in Overton window. And I think that with somebody like Trump, you're going to do that more than you would with somebody like DeSantis, because Trump is an outsider. He doesn't listen to the media, doesn't listen to even his own advisors in many cases. And people were like, he caves to his advisors that are establishment. He did, but he's also bucked them in many opportunities, and it saved many aspects of his administration in the process. So Wholesome DJ Aftershock says, cringe Rochester Hills versus Bay Shelby Township. Yeah, and Macomb County voted big. And you talk about the Trump base that only turns out for Trump. And they exist. And I'll go down to Michigan here. But Macomb County is a big bellwether for that. I mean, you got to win Macomb by like around 10 to win the state usually. And that voted for Whitmer by 5 points. So I believe it's more than they voted for Whitmer back in 2016. John James won by like 0.1. He underperformed worse than John Gibbs underperformed. Like, I'm not kidding. They'll never blame John James for underperforming, or Republicans for nominating John James. It's not even his fault. It's arguably Dixon's fault, but I mean, the party is so incompetent. Who else could they have put up? Who else could they have put up? Still waiting, by the way. It's disgraceful. But no, we're going to continue the fight because there's no other way. They want us to stop. That's what they do. They want us to cave and say, we were wrong. Trump sabotaged the midterms. So it's not the RNC. The RNC was perfect. It's all Trump's fault. And we need DeSantis to be at the top of the ticket, and then probably somebody weaker to be his VP. That's what they would want. That's the future that these people want. We can't give it to them. We cannot give it to them. Rin Wesley says establishment politicians don't want an outsider present, which is what Trump is. DeSantis is not. Thinking DeSantis is Trump without the downsides is naive. It is, and I once thought this too to a certain extent. I mean, I was not fully ever on board with, throwing away Trump for DeSantis, but I was like, well, if he doesn't run, it's okay. And it's like, he's a vehicle. At the state level, he's a vehicle for us because he's competent, can get things done, sets an example. But at the national level, he's a pivot vehicle for them. He is somebody that will go out there and probably be beholden to the donor class the same way any Republican would. I don't see the difference between him and Brian Kemp at the national level. I really don't. I mean, like, Brian Kemp doesn't have a fan base that's so annoying that makes me not like the candidate. Because the DeSimps, it's really them that I have more of a problem with. It's the people that are propping him up. Whether it's the Anon accounts on Twitter or whether it's these GOP establishment members, people like Jeb Bush even, who was never Trump or didn't even vote for Trump in the general twice, is backing DeSantis, has given him a lot of praise, support, backed him during his reelection bid, is probably going to support him for 2024. I mean, seriously. Who knows? So, what can I say? Kathy says, Lakes Ripple, watch the water. She's going to expose the redacted. Well, we'll see. I mean, we've heard this is going to get out to light, and sometimes you might see some report. I'm not saying that I'm just saying, will it actually happen? I trust Abe Hamadeh. If he does get in there, which is not a sure thing, to go after it, to see what happened, maybe open investigation or something. But Katie Hobbs is awful. She's just a train wreck, and it's embarrassing. The Jaded Kriegsman says, best thing I think Ron DeSantis could do is help Republican governors enact the election reforms he did in Florida. Yeah. I mean, he could be used for good. I like DeSantis. I don't hate him. But him being at the national level is not going to be this pipe dream some people want it to be. And there are a lot of bad actors that are getting behind him and supporting him. And that's a problem. I see that as an issue. I really do. conservative media, establishment conservative media, the same publications that were never Trump, even throughout the general in some cases, back in 2016. Those are the people that are supporting Ron DeSantis, and they're his strongest soldiers right now. His strongest soldiers. So I don't think that I'm wrong for asking questions. If there was somebody truly better than Trump that came along, I would tell you I don't see that person. I don't see that person right now. And that takes into account Trump's, I wouldn't say failures, but I would say just the fact that he's not what he was in 2016. Shout out to Lucas Zapon. Message retracted. Nick H. Hold up. Wait. Let me go up a little bit. Nick H. says, Laxalt losing stings the most for me. If McConnell put more money that he put for Murkowski in Nevada, he would have won. Yeah. And it's embarrassing. These people should not remain in leadership, except the GOP gives Tom Emmer a promotion. It's disgraceful. It is. And we're going to get to the regular chat when the super chats are done. I'm not done yet. We're still monologuing. We're still just having a little bit of a brainstorming chat right now, and that's perfectly fine because we're doing the autopsy report, and I think we're doing it pretty well. And we retook the House. I'm glad. Should have been by more. The Senate could break even the way it was. It's a net zero. And then in terms of governorships, lost a couple. Probably going to get one, maybe even two, 2023. Not going to jump to Kentucky predictions given what happened in Kansas, but Louisiana is almost a sure flip, assuming they don't find, I don't know, the second coming of John Bel Edwards. I don't know who he would be. So if gubernatorial results meant anything, then Romney wouldn't have lost by over 20 in Massachusetts. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Everybody should understand DeSantis is not winning Florida by 20 at the presidential level. I will say Rubio overperforming is a good sign for the state's rightward trend because it is a federalized election. I think that either Trump or DeSantis might actually take it by more than 10 in 2024. But yes, I mean, Zeldin doing well doesn't mean New York's going to take a rapid rightward turn in 2024. It could take a rightward turn. It's not going to, turn to the right that much. Lions 1956 says, everyone go donate to Walker. We need his seat. Yeah, I'm going to donate to Walker. I'll do my part. Get a chance to. Mr. Jimmy says, what if the 2024 Senate map was held in 2022? Well, we'd flip, obviously, Ohio, Wisconsin, not necessarily Wisconsin, but Ohio, West Virginia, Montana, and then, I don't know, maybe another state or so. We'd probably lose the Rust Belt 3, which, again, Trump at the top of the ticket. Another thing, the coattails matter. Those voters that are only Trumpers, when they vote, they're going to vote Republican down ballot most of the time. That is a good sign. For Michigan, a good sign for Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. I'm not saying Casey's favored to lose, but if Trump wins Pennsylvania by more than 3, there's a chance he goes down. Michigan, same thing, although I don't have high hopes for Michigan in 24. I do have high hopes for Wisconsin regardless. I think Trump would win it by obviously more than somebody like DeSantis. I think he still has a shot in Pennsylvania. But Michigan is kind of, I'm not the biggest, it depends on the economy. Michigan is a state that in presidential elections, the economy is a big determining factor. It depends if Trump can barnstorm the state again. He'll get close. I don't know if he'll win it, though. But we'll see. It's very early on. Even if we have the polls, doesn't matter. But Trump was outperforming all Republicans in pretty much every midterm poll. Now we know why. Now, maybe that aspect of the polls was true. But who knows? Ryan Lapolt says, where does Masters go now? Does he go for VP or run for Senate again next cycle or retire? He has a lot of time. He can go for Congress or something. I don't know. He could go work at Twitter. He has experience at these tech firms. He could go work for Musk. It'd be funny. I mean, Teal should buy YouTube next. We gotta buy YouTube. If we buy YouTube, it's game over. And obviously, Twitter's not perfect. I'm not saying it is. I'm not a full Elon truster, but it has been a net positive. I'm verified, and then I know that everybody can get verified, but still, it's like There should be a follower requirement, and I'm not trying to make people who might be verified now mad, but like YouTube has a follower requirement for verification, and that definitely is beneficial. You know, you get 100K, you get that tick. Maybe 10K could get you a verified badge on Twitter. I don't know. That'd be interesting. But I think that'd be a lot more of like a situation where it's like, oh, I earned something. Because some people could just buy it and it's like, okay, it's not really a flex. But I feel like some people have earned it more so than not. So Joshua Mills says, which states in 2024 you think will be the tipping point states? If we flip Arizona, Georgia, Wisconsin, that puts us at 272. I think that Wisconsin should flip. Nevada, I still believe will flip. I still think it will, especially with Lombardo in there. That definitely makes things a little bit easier. And then I think you still have to go after Pennsylvania. You still have, I believe, one chamber in the state legislature. I could be wrong. You have a shot in Pennsylvania in 2024, but you got to get the base to turn out. They did not turn out this cycle, just like they did not turn out in 2018, even though the national environment was vastly different. It was a red wave in Florida. It was a red wave in New York, a red wave in Iowa, even a red wave in some of these other states, but not exactly hitting the key Rust Belt 3. And that could be a problem moving forward, but we'll see. Let's see. The JD Craigsman says Trump and DeSantis both need to avoid the media trap. They want these two to fight and destroy each other, focus the attention on the rhinos, put Mitch out to pasture. Well, I think Trump is doing both. I mean, he's going to have to attack DeSantis and vice versa if they both run, and that is what it is. Now, I will say this. They want a divided party, and I know it's like you could say it's like a more establishment or centrist argument to say. I get that, but they do want a divided party. If your party's divided, you're going to have a problem winning the general, more so than not. I mean, the Republican Party was very divided. In a lot of these states, they lost. I mean, you know, you look at a state like, I don't know, Michigan was the primaries was wide open. Wisconsin for the governorship, I think, is a big example. There was bad blood between the two, even though they weren't that different ideologically. I think it's because of some like family-related matter. I don't know exactly what it is, but I can't describe it off the top of my head, but there was a family-related matter between the two, and there was no unity. And the fact is the America First candidates won, or even some of the candidates that were a little bit more Trump-endorsed or Trumpian, and they were left out to dry by the establishment. It's very sad, but what can I say? Nick Perez says, who do you think Trump should pick for VP? I will do a video, if not even a documentary on that. The content's going to continue. That's not going to change at all. There's still going to be a lot of content on this channel. Maybe go live a little bit more because I like talking to you guys, but I would have to say that it really depends. It depends on what you want. Do you want to double down on the base, or do you want somebody that's more of a compliment? Not like I'm going to give you a compliment like you look nice today, but a compliment is it complements the ticket. Mike Pence was a compliment. You obviously have to understand he's Trump. He's going to choose someone loyal, so it depends. It really does. I don't know who his VP is going to be. Probably somebody in office right now. Somebody that has some base appeal, could branch out a little bit. Maybe Kim Reynolds out of Iowa. I mean, she's not talked about enough. I don't know if she has like the charisma or the debate ability, but she's done a good job. I mean, she won by a massive margin for a reason. Yeah, her opponent sucked, but I mean, still, we're talking about Iowa. She got the base out kind of, mainly in the suburbs, not so much in some of the rurals. It should have been a cakewalk for the representatives there, including Nunn, who won, but not by as much as he should have won by. But I don't know. Imperium Magistrate says, unpopular opinion, minimum age requirements for Congress and presidency should be abolished. I'm also anti-term limits. Listen, I don't disagree with any of that. Like, Trump talking about term limits I see as kind of a good thing, but I don't think it's going to solve the problem. I mean, it's important we get that into the sphere of talking about. But still, term limits and what they would do is you have a lot of good people. I want Gosar in there as long as I could have him in there. The base likes him in that district. MTG should be there for 20, 30 years. The district loves her. They'll reelect her time and time again. That's not going to change. But in terms of like the problem with all these people, get big money out of politics. That's going to solve the issue. I mean, a lot of these candidates that are based are actually the ones that aren't getting funded as much by the big money. So, yeah, what can I say? But in terms of the age requirements, like, yeah, if a 32-year-old is like the unanimous consensus pick for president, why shouldn't he be president? Like, that's what I'll say. If somebody can actually get things done and is at a very young age, then they should be able to be president. I don't see why not. But yeah, let's see. No progressism from Arizona. Blake should either run for House or the state legislature. Yeah, I don't think he's going to do the latter. Yee's a top AZ governor pick. She's more moderate but somewhat MAGA. Yee, I wouldn't oppose if she's like the only one that could beat Sinema for running in 2024 for Senate. If Sinema is going to get through her primary, of course. But I don't know. I mean, Yee is not the worst, but she still has those tendencies. Like, she oversaw the downfall of the California GOP. If she ran for governor and she won, then I think her tenure it could be Ducey 2.0. It might be a little bit better, but still, she got 3% in the primary for a reason. Yeah, she overperformed at the treasurer level, but I mean, it's a lower level statewide office. I mean, come on. We've seen Republicans win statewide offices in Washington, in Oregon. Like, I don't know. That's not enough to cut it for me. Exactly says, what do young conservative organizations need to do to connect to more young people? I have no idea what they could offer them. They're leftists. They don't get it. I wouldn't say they're leftists, but I'd say that they're just like cringe. A lot of them are out of touch. The infrastructure is there, but then you see them like passing around these flyers. Oh, free markets, America. It's like the most generic stuff ever. And this is not what conservatism is entirely about. It's not what it stands for. I look at this, and I went to a political event at a college campus about a week or two ago, and I'm looking at the flyers they're passing out, and it's like, really? It was the day after the midterms, by the way, or no, 2 days after, and I'm like, this is why we lose. This is why we lose. I wish I saved the flyers, but we have a lot of work to do. Shout out to Kiwi Jerome Phillips. Thanks for the 20. Kathy says, Carrie Lake will expose electoral corruption. She's a brilliant investigative journalist that our GOP will expose over the next 2 years and watch many step down. We'll have to see. I think her future is not done. She'll do something in her future. She's very talented, very rhetorically skilled, and one of the best candidates I think we've seen in terms of just the articulation of her ideas. And that's why it hurts more so than not. And whether you want to say this happened, it's still, they're still going to run with the narrative that she was a bad candidate in the GOP establishment. And it's sad. It's sad that they will. They'll do anything to cover for Karen Robson, by the way, who has shilled to give illegal aliens free tuition. She was nowhere to be found. And then she pops up randomly, supports this bill to give illegal aliens free tuition. That's who you want leading the Republican Party? If that's the Republican Party, then what's the point? That's what a lot of people are going to be saying. What's the point if that's the Republican Party? If that's who's going to win your state, which I don't believe she would have. But it's like, no. It's abysmal. It's embarrassing. It really is. But I really do believe that Robson probably would. I mean, you could argue she would have lost as well. Maybe even by a wider margin even, because she was very unlikable. She was Kelly Loeffler, but for Arizona. And she was also involved in scamming, except instead of like insider trading, trying to game the system for her own financial benefit, what she was doing was she was scamming elderly people for donations, which I think is just disgusting, but that's the way it is. Real Texan Politics is apparently Trump's not the first candidate to announce. Corey Stapleton, the former Montana Secretary of State, announced earlier. I know. But it's not like he's going anywhere. He's like, what, John Delaney 2.0? Okay, he can run. Vercom Pracis says, do the PA or do the Pennsylvania, Michigan, Arizona constitutions allow for the populace to vote for universal mail-in voting, or can the legislature pass the state without state vote? I don't even know what that means. I mean, depends on the bill. Some of the election legislation, I think in Wisconsin, had been struck down by the court as unconstitutional. I'm not entirely sure. Have to get back to you on that one. Sam Madsen says, thoughts on Michigan's new trifecta. It is a train wreck. Not a fan. Wholesome DJ Aftershock says, Dearborn did move significantly right in 22 versus 20. It's the education issue. We should have capitalized on that a little bit more in messaging. I mean, the Arizona, the superintendent, he won. He got by, or he's leading by a decent amount. He's not going to be able to lose at this point. From what I heard, he ran a campaign that was pretty tough. And you look at school boards flipping in Loudoun County, Virginia, South Florida, obviously, but just across the country. And there is that energy shift there, and it's mainly the anti-alphabet indoctrination that caused Muslim voters to move to the right. So wish a lot of Christian voters, which are like the majority of the public, would wake up and understand that it's a problem. But no, apparently they didn't turn out to vote because Republicans would rather pander instead of actually add to their column. Dan S. says, Rick Scott for Senate Minority Leader. I'm for it. Be an upgrade for McConnell for sure. I don't think he'd try to sabotage people the way McConnell did. I don't think he's perfect, but he said some cringe things, and then people call him out for it. He falls in line. That's more of what we need. I mean, you're not going to get, you're not going to get, MTG as your Senate Majority Leader. You're just not going to. You're not even going to get, like a J.D. Vance as your Majority Leader. It's not viable. Hawley, that's like one of your better options at that point. I mean, Hawley understands political strategy better than most, given how he's reacted to the midterms. I'll say that, but he's not really like our guy either. And he still can't even get in there. So, Real Texan Politics is, of course, Kinzinger and Cheney are cheering on the blue wave. It's not a blue wave, but yeah, of course they are. I have no doubt in my mind they would have voted for Pelosi for Speaker. Also ironic how Kinzinger has a PAC named Country First when he's probably the most Ukraine First member of Congress. Yeah, exactly. He's basically saying, it's country over party, but, he's not country over party. He's establishment over country. That's the problem. And part of that includes the current thing. It includes Ukrainian aid. It includes a lot of different things. North Valley Young Republican says the future of the nation runs through Arizona. The battle did not end tonight. The war was declared. Exactly. A lot of things need to change. Fatal Money says, see, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Georgia permanently lost for mail-in. The GOP then needs to win Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Michigan to get to 271. So the GOP will never win again. Only forward is for the... See, that's a mentality that I understand and sympathize with, but I'm not entirely sure if that's true. Nevada keeps moving right. It does. You have a Republican governor in there now. He may be able to get some things done. Arizona, that one is a mess, especially with Fontes at Secretary of State. And then you look at Pennsylvania. I still think Trump could be able to inspire enough turnout to win Pennsylvania. Georgia, I'm not very white-pilled on. So personally, Wisconsin, they can get Pennsylvania, they can get Nevada, they can get Trump. Should go all in on those three. That would, I believe, would that be enough? It would be close to enough with the new map. I don't know. Ash Brothers says 2016 was a fluke. Michigan's a blue state. It's not a solid blue state like even Minnesota in terms of the fluke, but I mean, it's looking like Michigan is doomed. Even if Trump wins the state in 2024, it's doomed. Real Texan Politics says, I think Marcus Flowers needs more thanks for us taking back the House. Yeah, he got 5% more, so he did the same as Klasick did with overperforming. He was the Klasick of the cycle. Also thoughts on Alex Mooney running against Manchin in 2024. He'd win. He's an underperformer, but I mean, in a presidential election, Manchin's done. He's done for. I mean, if he gets it within 15 or 10, that's a miracle. Montana, another sure flip. Rosendale's going to run for re-election. Zinke would probably lose a primary if he goes for it to somebody that could actually destroy Tester on a one-on-one, and especially with Trump on the ballot. Again, Trump being on the ballot is needed. down ballot. People don't get it. They'll take the wrong takeaway from the midterms. But he wasn't there to save you in Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, or Ohio. I mean, obviously, Ron, John, and Vance won, but that's not enough. Josh Logic says, what happened in Michigan is interesting. Are Americans becoming too comfortable with tyranny? Is this a part of the human condition? I think a lot of people are stupid. I'll say that. And there's no other way to chalk it up. You voted to reelect the worst governor in state history, arguably even worse than Granholm. Granholm didn't kill grandparents. She was awful, but she didn't do that. You reelected this woman by more than she won in a D+9 environment by in an R+3 environment plus. It's a disgrace. Michigan is a train wreck. It is. It's a train wreck. I think Whitmer won the white vote. She won the white vote, or it was close. Like, there's no excuse for that at all. It's Cool Guy Rye says, I'm surprised Horn is going to win in AZ. I predicted he would lose while every other candidate would win. Also Trump 2024. Yeah, well, I mean, we'll take any win we can get at this point. Jesse Train says, Trump's speech seemed calm and reassuring. The lack of swearing was nice. I did not like calling for the death penalty for drug dealers too extreme. Well, he said a lot of that rhetoric beforehand in 2016, and it's true. I mean, this week on crime stuff was supposed to, like, help his prospects, and it didn't. I said it wouldn't do it. Back in 2020, I was right. And we need to be tough on these people. I mean, how many people have lost loved ones due to fentanyl? A lot more people than you would anticipate. I mean, this needs to be a key issue. It doesn't have to be the number one, but it has to be a key issue. Him saying, oh, well, somebody dealt heroin, the next day the guy died. He should be, you can say maybe not first-degree murder, but there should be some murder charge involved, and usually that leads to the death penalty. And you probably could have a lot less people doing this if that was the consequence. I don't know. I haven't, seen enough metrics, but you would anticipate that would be the way that it would be. LDS German Shepherd Boy says, last I checked, we're at 48 for the Senate seats. We're now at 49. Are they counting Alaska? Yeah, no, we're at 40. We're at 49. Alaska is going red regardless, but it's probably going for Murkowski, which is awful. Claire S. says, can Manchin be defeated during re-election? If so, who'd be a good candidate in West Virginia? You have more leeway there with candidates like ideology. I think Mooney'd be fine. The Meep kid says that it's UMB and Lagel Ballet Harv. That's the way he spelled it. I'm not saying it that way. In some state that won. Repub can are not smart, not do the same. I know, you edited it to fill in. I get it. Okay, super chats are whatever they are. But no, we need to do the same. And this is the thing. We will critique the electoral system. I get it. We should. The bottom line is you can use it for your own advantage and you don't use it. How many rural, not just rural, but disaffected white voters are there that don't vote in the Midwest? Mainly working class, blue collar, whatever. How many? Millions. A lot of them are males, by the way. Men don't vote as much as women do. That's on us. That's our problem. We need to get these people to vote. And you have to talk about what can we do in the culture to make people more conservative. Family structure is definitely a big thing, but it's a mess. It's still a mess. And we're not going to do that in 2 years. We're not going to save this country in 2 years with the culture. This cultural fight is some may say lost cause, but we're going to keep going regardless. And it's going to, obviously, we need to achieve political power to really change the culture too. One thing DeSantis has done well as governor, and he deserves credit for this, is actually terraforming the state and making it a paradise for many people. Will say that for conservatives and hell for leftists. So, yeah. Kathy says Pelosi is ready to run to Italy as ambassador. How's she gonna get along with Maloney? So weird. I don't know. M. Costanza 47 says fans since liberal hive mind shouted you out. Many such cases. Question, who's your favorite common sense podcaster and why? Crowder, Timcast, Daily Wire, etc. Trump 2024. Depends how you define podcaster. Because some people, in terms of content creators, I could tell you. Am I a podcaster? I wouldn't consider myself one, but at the end of the day, hey, technically I'd have to say that I'm my favorite content creator because I'm me. But in terms of content creators, If you consider Daily Wire podcasts, I mean, they have videos and podcasts. I'd probably say it depends. It really depends. I'm not really the biggest guy of any of those three. I like Crowder. He's okay. Don't agree with him on everything. Timcast, I don't really watch Timcast. Daily Wire, I like Knowles. Walsh is big DeSantis shill. He's returning to his 2016 roots, and Shapiro is definitely a full-on just establishmentarian neocon. We know that. So in terms of podcasters, I don't know. I can't tell you. I mean, one of my favorite content creators was sitting at the Mar-a-Lago announcement today, and I think we know who that is. But yeah. But it's crazy. You think DeSantis would ever do that? You think DeSantis would ever have John Doyle come to his announcement speech? Really? I mean, you really think so? Yeah, no, would never happen. Would never happen. That's why I support Trump. That's why. So that's just the number one example. Why you pick Trump over DeSantis? Well, you think DeSantis would do that? I mean, I don't know if Trump obviously didn't personally invite him, but I don't think DeSantis would really have a lot of people other than like major donors sitting behind at his speech. But yeah, John was there. He got invited. He was on the TV actually in one of the shots. It was pretty cool. But yeah, M. Costanza 47. Oh wait, he did that one. The DM production says DeSantis is too socially conservative. If Trump's not in, that's a rare one. DeSantis is too socially conservative. Yeah. Well, I don't know what the logic is there, but okay. Dustin Carner says Rust Belt really swung left while the South as a whole swung substantially to the right. Wisconsin is where we need to focus all the energy. Pennsylvania, Michigan, no. I agree. I think Trump can win Pennsylvania, though. I mean, you talk about a shift to the right. What does he need? He needs to shift to the right by like 1.2. He can get that in Pennsylvania. Michigan, with a trifecta, I have no hope, but we'll see. He shouldn't write it off. He should write off Minnesota. He could still campaign in Michigan early on, test the waters, but we'll see. Sam Madsen says, would Trump or Ron do better in Illinois? I don't know. I really don't know. That's a toss-up. I couldn't tell you. I think DeSantis would probably do a point or two better in Lake County and some of these other places in the suburbs. Trump would probably run it up downstate. People really underestimate this notion of Trump voters not turning out when he's not on the ballot. And Republicans need to do everything they can to reach them. They've done it in Florida. They did a good job in New York, a good job in even California, Virginia. And obviously they got decent margins in the ancestral red states in some of these places, but they have a lot of work to do, a ton of work. So Dylan L says, any way for Trump to win college-educated whites? No. And don't pander to votes you're losing or voters that'll never vote for you. You have to go after your base. You have to go after where you can win. That's how you get people on your side into your column so you can win an election. Republicans did not do that this cycle, and you're pandering to an electorate that doesn't exist. This is not the 1994 electorate. This is not the electorate that was, 85% white nationally or something like that. I mean, if that was the case, you would have had your red wave of the biggest proportions in history. But that's not the country. And there's different issues now. You still go after your base. I'm not saying pander to minorities because you're not going to win them either. But what I'm saying is you have to actually get voters to your column you can add. Maybe you'll get some Hispanics by proxy, but it's going to be because of your results. Trump didn't really pander to Hispanics a lot in 2020. He saw gains. He pandered to black voters a lot, didn't see as many gains, but he produced economic results. However, there was not really that agenda for middle America, and turnout, was higher. And yeah, I know we know what went down, but I mean, still, there has to be some personal responsibility of what can you do better next time, because the system's not going to fully change, but you can beat the system. And you're going to have to use the system to benefit you. Conrad Gallmeyer says, do you think DeSantis will turn out rural voters? I feel like he'll face losses with turnout, Romney 2.0. Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that he'll lose voters, and that's what I'm talking about. I think he will lose voters in these places. I don't know how many voters he will lose, but I think that he will. Okay, wait, where were we? Apparently that super chat, I can't find it. Um, I don't know where the super chat went. I don't know. Okay. All right. Oh wait, there it is. There it is. Okay, it was not a $10. I thought it was one of the yellow ones, but I was wrong. Yeah, it depends. I mean, if the midterms are any indication, it's going to be an issue. You could say candidate quality, this, that, and the other thing. It's not enough to explain the drop off. It's not enough to explain it at all. I mean, there were bigger blue arrows to the left for Mastriano in rural Pennsylvania than there were in Chester County. That's a question mark right there. It's not like the suburbs sank him, but he got Trump's base on board. There's no turnout apparatus, and he was underfunded, and it was a big mess there, but we know. Kathy says, thank you for putting yourself out there. Red Eagle Politics rock. Say it out loud. I adore you. Well, thank you. Really appreciate it. Nick H says, we can't give up on Pennsylvania. It's the new Ohio, and Trump has proven he can win it. In 2020, kept it close. Rolling the dice on someone like DeSantis who supported bad trade deals is a huge risk. Yeah, and Trump will use that in the primary. You talk about Iowa in the primary. Trump didn't win Iowa in 2016. He's going to win it in 2020, or 2024, I should say, if he continues, if he actually gets on the campaign trail. If Trump attacks DeSantis in a debate or just attacks him in general, DeSantis' support is going to lower unless Trump completely drops the ball and DeSantis manages to just get an insane amount of funding, which he might receive, which he might actually receive. But either way, a divided party is going to be a train wreck for a primary as well as a general. But I don't think DeSantis is going to win because we've seen Trump beat the system in the primary before. I mean, it's the same thing. We'll watch and see if they try to rework the rules because they had, he was beating Ted Cruz in some states, receiving the same or less amount of delegates. I mean, it's a big mess in the Republican primary, but you talk about it. I think Trump wins every state almost in the primary against DeSantis. He's not losing Iowa. Probably New Hampshire, you'll see crossover vote. That one could be close. But then you go to South Carolina, Trump should easily win South Carolina. And then you go to Nevada, he's going to win Nevada. And then Super Tuesday, he should do well enough in the South. By the time Florida rolls around, DeSantis is not going to be in the race at that point. If he is, Trump may beat him in a primary. So we'll see. Nick H says the path to 270 is narrow without Pennsylvania. I know. Mackerel says Trump should nominate Candace Owens for Secretary of Education. Would that even have the votes is the real question in the Senate. I don't even know. I mean, is she really that qualified for that position? Being a good commentator doesn't mean you're going to be a great Secretary of Education. It's like saying I should be Secretary of Health. It's like, okay, well, I mean, I'm glad you like me, but I don't really have any qualifications there. So Young Rex says, what is the number one issue Trump should focus on in 2024? Depends. We're not there yet. Could be a different issue that we don't even know about. But keep the messaging the same. Nick H, or the same as he did in 2016, which was the same as he had in his introduction speech, even if the energy level was not 100. So Nick H says Pennsylvania, Nevada, Wisconsin would be exactly 270. I agree. That's your strategy. You gotta just go after it. And I don't know. Hopefully Trump doesn't hire Trafalgar to be his pollster. I mean, that would be a mess given this cycle. But I don't know. We'll see. You look at the pollsters, they're awful. And we give a lot of resources to states that we don't need to give resources to. It's just not helpful. But Trump's going to be in Iowa quite a bit. He's going to be on the campaign trail. He likes being on the campaign trail. He'll be out there, and we'll see what happens. Life O'Foley says, what is the chance the marriage bill passed tomorrow? Also, why is the Mormon church endorsing something that's against their doctrine? Because that's how they operate. The Mormons are very malleable. And like I said, if the Mormon church liberalizes, Utah could very well go blue. And we're seeing that right now. I don't know what's going on with the Mormon church. I mean, they've changed their doctrine a lot over the years. I'm not a theological expert. I mean, I know some Mormons that I like. They're great people, but still, I mean, the church it's not a real religion in my opinion. It's not real. It's heretical. And now they're being heretical to their own doctrine, which is hilarious, but it's like the only part of one of the only parts of their doctrine that's just a part of your ordinary generic denominations of Christianity. So yeah, I don't know what to say. It's a confusing church, and some of them are great people, but the leadership is awful. It is. It is awful. GDST says can Kerry catch up with uncounted votes? Doubtful. They already called it. Sam Madsen said, how did Jensen outperform Dixon? I have no idea. I really have no idea. I think it's because the Michigan GOP may be even worse than the Minnesota GOP at this point. Also, Tim Walz, I mean, he was not well liked by a lot of people, and there is the third party factor, I believe. I don't know to what extent that impacted it, but still. Kathy says, my twin sister now has Bell's palsy. Fauci needs to go down. Isn't he basically out of there already? I could be wrong, but still. Lions 1956 says, tell everyone to donate to Walker on his website. Yes, let me find the website. It's getting late. I know, I've been streaming for a while. It's 1 o'clock on the East Coast. Herschel Walker website. Let's see. It's teamherschel.com. Go donate to Herschel Walker. Teamherschel.com. Anakin C says, is there a Mrs. Red Eagle? Not yet. Not yet. You have to trust the plan, but as of right now, not yet. Real Texan Politics is very sad. The one governor seat we pick up is in a state where Dems have a supermajority in the legislature. Yeah, exactly. It was not a good showing. We get it. The Meep Kid says Republicans need to do states that have legal ballot harvesting. Same the Dems. Yeah, we know. I mean, I read that the first time. I agreed with that. The Meep Kid says Republicans are unsmart not to do the same. YouTube won't let me put it all in one. Yeah, I like I said, they have to beat them at their own game. You have to play the game to win. And you could say, well, we're no better than the opposition. It's like you're losing to them. It's like you have the ball. What are you doing? They're out there throwing touchdowns to benefit their side. And you're out there just like taking the knee. You're not even trying to use the power you have to put points up on that board. It's sad, man. It's like you people like, oh yeah, you're running out the clock. You're holding the line for like, what, 2 minutes? I don't know. Lions 1956 says vote for and donate to Herschel. Yes, donate to Herschel. LC8VR says we need to learn how to organize like the left. If they're ballot harvesting, we ballot harvest, beat them at their own game. Yes, thank you. Hashtag Trump 2024 landslide. The Ash Brothers says Georgia has strong GOP. Kemp underrated. Can we hold it? I don't know. We'll see. I mean, look at the swings. He even underperformed Trump in the Atlanta suburbs. I mean, they just got their operation out in the rurals. A lot of other states couldn't do the same. There's no infrastructure. It's sad. But hopefully they come out strong for the runoff. We'll see. Beaches says if Trump fails, is secession? I don't think so. I think that would never happen. And if the red states leave, the blue states are going to do everything in their power to say it's an insurrection. They're going to punish the state. They're going to do everything they can. They're going to send the military to the state. I mean, it's like, oh, we're going to have a national divorce. It's like the cop-out pipe dream. Sam Madsen says, does the Michigan House flip back in 24? It could if Trump's on the top of the ticket. If DeSantis, it's a question mark. I still think it could, though. Some forgot, can't say the other pronunciation, or they're gonna flag it. Says, do you think PACs like TLP will try to sway the primaries, TLP being the Lincoln Project? Yeah, now that they have like their back door back into the party where they can like maybe try to say they're not full-on rhinos if they do, coalesce behind DeSantis, which some of their members have. Some of their members say he's like just as dangerous as Trump, but he's like less brash or whatever. I mean, they will try. I don't think they'll make an impact. There's other groups that I'm more afraid of that are not obvious rhinos like them that will try and will do everything they can to sabotage not just the primaries for like the presidency or the presidential level, but even like the Senate level. Like there's the same amount of primaries we saw in 2022 that do not relate to the presidency that we'll see in 2024. All right. Lines 1956 is let's focus on winning the Georgia runoff before 2024. We will. If every viewer donated $10 to Walker, he gets $13,000. Yeah, donate $10 to Walker if you can. Kathy says, good night from America, from a Falkland widow from Australia. You are still my greatest allies. God bless. Well, thank you. It's definitely tough out there with their whole lockdowns, the whole lockdown process that they had in Australia. It was worse than anything we had here even. Nick H's thoughts on Anglicanism. That's the British church, I believe, that was the Church of England, and they broke from the Catholic Church back in the day. I don't know much about them, honestly. I don't know that much about them. There's a presence here in America of them that's kind of not as big, but I don't know that much about them. Zach K says, at this point, I don't even want DeSantis 2028 plus. I'm with you if there's not better options. I'm with you there. Some Fagot says reps need to do ballot harvesting. Yeah, I agree. If the left can do it legally, the right should be able to do it. Go out there, go where the voters are. Get your people. Make sure that they get people to vote. Do anything they can do and get those early ballots. And then you'll have your election day turnout loyalists, of course, that actually care, but still. Dustin Carner says, I know you're not white-pilled about Georgia. I disagree. It swung to the right this year. Conversation for another time. Focus on Wisconsin, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, and maybe Pennsylvania. Well, I agree to an extent, but I'm just saying with Georgia, even the suburbs, I could look at the map here. Can we pull up the governorship level? Can we go to the state of Georgia even? Because even for Brian Kemp, who did well, he won by 7. In the suburbs, didn't do that well. I don't know if they show the map here. Oh, yeah, wait. No, they don't even show it. But it was close. It wasn't a big shift to the left, but it was really the rurals that came out big. Like Gwinnett County, Kemp lost it by 11. Well, no, actually he did. I think there were some counties. Maybe it was like Clayton or DeKalb or something that he did worse than Trump, but it wasn't every county. So that's technically not true, but still. Beaches says, how about a peaceful divorce? I already covered that. It's a pipe dream, would never happen. They're not comfortable with our existence as a different republic with actual America First values. They would never leave us alone. They'd never leave us alone. It's not how it works. Lifo Foley says, do you think it's guaranteed the marriage bill passes tomorrow? I'm so angry that they're caving. Yeah, probably. The Republican Party is weak on a lot of these social issues and useless. Even Trump is not that strong on the alphabet issues, although at least he's starting to talk about it. He's starting to talk about the, women's sports thing or whatever. I mean, I guess it's a step in the right direction. It's not like the whole ideal pushback against this indoctrination and, pushback against child mutilation, which is happening in a lot of places across the country. And they let him get away with it, even in red states. It's disgusting. But yeah, I don't know. It's just like they're not taking a stand on anything. They are in the same boat as all these other people, these whole transitioning firms and the whole industry, the alphabet industry. A lot of them are being funded by these establishment Republicans as well. And that's causing Republicans to cave on these alphabet issues, and it's causing the Overton window to move to the left faster. They're the ones to blame. It's the Republicans as well as the Democrats. They could have just held the line. We were so close to having a bipartisan gay marriage ban bill back in, 2001 or something like that, 2002, and that's nowhere to be found now. Now it's like, if you're a Republican and you say that you think gay marriage shouldn't be legal, then you're not electable or you're not able to win. And I don't think that that's entirely true. Youngkin was opposed to it. He won, even though he personally was opposed to it. He wasn't politically opposed as much. And he caved when he got in office as well, by the way, but I don't know. It's a mess. Alliance 1956 says, make calls and door knock and donate to Walker. Republicans need to be energized. I know, we get it. Walker needs to win. I get it. We need that seat. It makes the map a lot easier in 2024. Because you add those 3 and you already have 50, then you're at 53. You're not going to get your supermajority based off of what's going to happen this cycle. I know, but still, you could still maybe get 55. Maybe 55. I don't want to be bullish and say 58. I'm not gonna do that because I don't feel being bullish right now. But we'll see. Britton J. Orwin says, our doctrine has never changed. It's real. Please read the church's full statement before you make an incorrect judgment. Please be respectful. Thank you. Well, I'm saying historically, there were some things that happened in the Mormon church, like polygamy, that are outlawed now. They changed their, metric of who could, enter clergy or whatever. I'm saying that they've changed their positions on things. A lot of churches have changed their positions on things over the years. It's not something that's exclusive to the Mormon church, but I have not. I've looked a little. I've seen parts, bits and pieces of the statement. Either way, it's disappointing. There's really no way around it. They need to fight back. They really need to do. People need to understand that leaders have power for a reason. And the notion that we're supposed to just get rolled over is not entirely true. So I still think the fact that they have any reason for supporting it, even if they want to say, oh, it's just the libertarian process of things, I still think it's disgraceful. So that's the way it is. Let's see. Beaches says China fuels the left and Russia fuels the right. I don't know what the hell that means. Gumby Shrimp says 24 R's flip Nevada, Washington, and Nebraska second, not enough. It's true. They need Pennsylvania. They're not going to get Nebraska second. LC Aviator says, or Aviator, that's what that means, says, have you thought about starting a PAC? Yeah, there's just a lot of PACs already that could probably just use more support that could get off the ground, though. I don't really feel like I need to start one. Could prop some up, though. GDST says, why don't they do Trump DeSantis 2024? Because they're both from Florida. They both live in Florida. Trump would have to change his residency. Kathy says, America, the world needs peace. Lions 1956 says, no matter who you support in 2024, donate to Walker. We agree. We get it. Thank you. Thank everybody for the super chats. It's been a 2-hour stream. But Donald Trump, he's back. And that's the white pill, so we'll take it from here. The midterm results were a little disappointing. They still took back the House. I don't think a whole lot will change, but still, I mean, in terms of what gets brought to the House floor, that is definitely something that's a net positive. Is it enough of a net positive? We'll see. But still, got a long way to go before 2024, but it sure is going to be a fun couple of years, and I'll be here for it. The content will continue. I'll probably make a video tomorrow on this, obviously. We'll see. But that's it. Beaches says China and Russia influence our media. I don't think Russia influences the Republican Party's media or the right-wing media at all. I think that's probably a centrist take that's just not accurate. So, all right, guys, we're going to end the stream. Thanks for watching. Like the stream before you go. I will see you guys tomorrow. Red Eagle, out.